I've had the question of, is there more in depth to the planets? Is there more coming with steampunk stuff after, whether it's after the series? And the answer is yes. I plan on exploring more with this. It's been a big hit. I think almost all of the pieces so far, the originals are collected, and then they've got APs and signed numbers that have been flying out the door. So there's a storyline behind all this, and it's in that homage of Chuck's storytelling, right? And I don't want to just do a piece to do a piece. So there's more coming, and how this wraps out once this series wraps, and then how in depth into a little bit more into why in that planet and what's going on there. And then after that, I mean, how many other characters we have? Quite a few. What could happen? All kinds of things. So more to come from the Steampunk series. So part of what connected me to Chuck, and when I was watching the films and, reading through his books and the things that I would see even in interviews, was how he approached all of this. And, to find out that when he was, him and Mike Maltese were writing, and that either putting these films together, they were creating characters, or, however that was going, they were doing things that were funny to them. It wasn't, they weren't talking down to people. They weren't they weren't creating down to a level. They were doing things that they thought were hilarious, interesting, entertaining. And which is why when we see these things when we're young, and then as we get older, it just gets even funnier. And then what I love about Chuck's whole philosophy on creativity was just do it, draw everything, create stuff, think differently. Chuck wasn't just about the drawing and the animating. Like, he would go up to JPL and he would talk to scientists, and because he was fascinated with how they came up with things and the creativity behind problem solving on that. He would, doctors, nurses, there were things. It didn't have to be. What I loved about Chuck and his approach to creativity wasn't just creativity isn't just art. And he was filling his mind with all kinds of things. He was reading constantly. He was meeting with unique and different people in different industries. And that sparked his creativity as he kept going. So it's this whole, cyclical thing that one feeds the other. And the second part to that was Chuck's generosity. And like I had mentioned before, Chuck is not a closed fist dude. He's very much an open hand. And the way Chuck would be with people, whether he's doing a little doodle for them or whether he's spending time with kids in the hospital and just trying to bring a little bit of joy to their day as he's just spending time. Like, time was the most important thing you could give to a child, is what Chuck would say. And he would just spend time with him. He would do some drawing with him. And that kind of thing is why I'm connected to the gallery. It's why we do what we do at the center. It's those philosophies that Chuck had, his legacy, which continues to move forward, has impacted us. Right. And now we are moving that legacy forward. And I'm so grateful that I get to take part of this on a daily basis. My name is Ben Olson. I'm an artist with the Chuck Jones Gallery, and I have created the Conquer Earth series, a steampunk Marvin the Martian journey going from planet A to Z and what happens after the debacle in Planet X from Duck Dodgers in the 24th and half century. You want to learn more about what's going into this? Check this video out. So I think the Chuck Jones Gallery experience is unique because it's something that connects us to our inner child, right? We feel a youthful exuberation when we walk in. We notice these films, we notice the characters, we've connected with these things, we've laughed, we've belly laughed at things, we've taken something in. And I think what's important about that is to maintain that inner youth, and a lot of times, like, life can wear on you as you get older, and we lose touch with that. And it's a sadness a little bit for me when I hear people discuss that, like, oh, I used to do this, but I don't, and whatever. But then they find something in the gallery. They find a piece on something. They find a character. They find a rebirth. And I have gotten more people that message me through whatever channel, Instagram, Facebook, that I meet at shows or just in general. And we all, because I'm right along there with them. I'm one of the group, we all have that same kind of youthful exuberation that happens when we walk into a Chuck Jones gallery and we see all this beautiful animation artwork, and these inspired by works on things, and it connects us with that inner child. And it's I never want to grow up in there. I never want that little inner child to grow up. And that's what the Chuck Jones Gallery experience gives me. Every time I walk in and I'm looking at something on a wall, or something on a display that they've got, and there's a ton of history. This isn't just it's not just works created, which that's fantastic. You go into other galleries, they've got beautiful work, but this is history in both art, animation, and it's something that's connected to experiences that we have had. And I think that's what, to me, is the key, is I'm connecting to an experience I had as a child, and then as a teenager, and then as a grown up, and I'm still watching the films. I watch them with my, all of my children, and we all laugh, and I still laugh to this day, and it still gives me that useful exuberance. And no other gallery can give you that. And I've been in quite a few. So Chuck Jones, how has Chuck Jones influenced art and pretty much everything creative? I'd say it started way back, when I remember seeing when we used to have Saturday morning cartoons. There was 3 hours on a Saturday, and it was all Looney Tunes cartoons, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck. And the films that I ended up gravitating more toward, I noticed the same director, Charles M. Jones, Rabbit Fire, Robin Hood, Daffy. I mean, go down the list of What's Opera Doc, everything. And I would notice that, like, that sense of humor and was something I gravitated a little too more of. And when I got into animation became a thing. Like I art, and I would draw on stuff all the time, and then I would draw what I would see, on the TV. And when I got into high school and my art teacher just opened the floodgates with what I could do, I had a bigger library than when I was in junior high. And I remember pulling off, I was looking at books, and I would always check the art and animation section and check things out. Well, one of the first 2 books, it was probably the first book of the 2 that I checked out, was one I saw the spine of, and I have it sitting on my shelf right there. And I looked, and I'm looking on the spine, and I see Chuck Jones, and I'm like, Chuck Jones, Chuck him up. What's that? And I pulled it off, and there's bugs on the front. And I checked it out of the library. I checked that book out of the library more than any book. And I would thumb through, and I would read, and I was looking at all the drawings, and I was drawing. Drip Along Daffy was the first drawing I did out of his book. And I would notice the things that he would say and pick up, and it wasn't resonating as much in high school because I was more fascinated with the cartoon aspect of things. And then as I got into college and I started to digest his book a little bit more, it was more on the draw everything, get it all out, creativity, like multiple avenues, that kind of thing. So it started before I even knew it, when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, watching the films, and then actually understanding who it was that was making this, and that all that went into it, like the whole thing starts up here and then it gets out. And so Chuck had me from elementary school and before that. So the first time I met Craig was in 2000. I said 2008 in an interview, and he goes, I think it was 2010. I'm like, I think it was 2008. No, I went back. He was right. It was 2010. Craig, you're right. 2010. And he came out to an art gallery event out in the Schaumburg area, and they had posted something about this, and I saw it, and we went. And we don't get animation stuff out like in the Midwest, right? So that's kind of like a coastal thing. It was either Florida and what was going on, or LA in that area. And Chuck Jones' grandson is going to be there with Chuck Jones stuff. Original production. Like as you can see in the back, sort of here, I'm an original production drawing guy. I love the production drawings. There's Baton Bunny. I've got a Chuck sketchbook page. I got Chuck stuff, original sketches all over the place. I'm fascinated with the sketches. So to see that they were bringing animation art from the films, right? And Craig was going to be there with the Oscar, one of the Oscars that Chuck won. I have to go. So I went with my family, and we just took part in his stories and what he was saying about Chuck. And this was something resonated because this was a hero of mine. Chuck was a hero of mine that I never did get to meet in person, but that influenced me heavily through his writings, through what he created, and through videos. Once YouTube became a little bit more prevalent and you could start picking that stuff up. So to meet Craig was fantastic, and I nerded out, and I got my first, it was a Marvin the Martian production drawing. And he met him, and I got to hold the Oscar and take a picture, and was talking to him about my love of, Chuck and what his grandfather influenced on me, and why it's still a part of me. And I remember, and he was extremely nice, and just like I was the only one in the room, and he did that with everybody, right? He's got a gift. And so I remember he made this one statement, and we would get done talking. We're talking about creativity and how much we love that. And he's telling me a little bit about the Chuck Jones Gallery and the Chuck Jones Center. And he said, you know, Ben, there's something here. I don't know what it is yet, but there's something. You and I, there's something. There's a connection thing. And let's see where this goes. Now, mind you, Midwest, not around all this. Chuck's grandson, legacy, right? And there's just me in the gallery with the thing, and he makes that statement, and I do one of these. And I have no idea what you're talking about, but yes, wherever you want this to go. So a couple of years later, I was going through some really crappy stuff in life and divorce, and that was really weighing heavy. And we were chit-chatting about some stuff because he had some shared experiences with me, and then it invited me out to the Chuck Jones family gathering in 2012, which was Chuck's 100th birthday. And from there, it just, like, after that, it was conversations, and it was talking about the center and then the gallery, and then I got involved with the gallery, and then I got picked up and signed to do this stuff. And I don't remember exactly the year, but it's been, what is it, 2022 now? I think 8 years. And it's been phenomenal. And what I love about that is Chuck's influence and legacy is in multiple ways: gallery stuff, center stuff, right? The museum, everything that they do. And they don't hold on to it with a tight fist. It's constantly getting things out. Like, Chuck was not tight-fisted. He was very generous and sharing all of his knowledge and just listening to people and spending time. And they do the same thing. So to be involved with the center is wonderful, because I love the work that it does. And we're up in Chicagoland. We're about to launch Central Florida soon. And then the gallery, which I get to do stuff that I grew up loving, and I'm doing it in a way that I never thought before. And why I love working with these guys so much at the Chuck Jones Gallery is, man, it's just go. Like, the ideas, the whatever, the making Chuck's thing your own thing and then doing something with it. I mean, this whole Conquer Earth series was, when I pitched that, I'm like, well, what would happen after Planet X? And what if we did it in a different style? And then what if this was the thing? And the freedom to creatively express. They give really great notes. They're very encouraging, and it's fast on the turnaround for ideas. Things don't just sit on a shelf. And there's a plethora of reasons, but those three, are what, for me as a creative, is so invigorating, because I'm working with characters that I love from a creator that I love and admire, and I'm getting to do it in a way that's my own. So it hands down, like, it's a fantastic relationship, and I love it. So Conquer Earth is something that has been a passion project of mine. And it started with Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century, which is right there on one of my all-time favorite animated films, and my all-time favorite Chuck films to boot. And the question being at the end, that for one, when you Illudium Fosdex, what the heck is that? The shaving cream atom, like the things that they come up with, and why mutually assured destruction of Planet X didn't work out so well. What happens after that? Like, why was Marvin there looking for the shaving cream atom? What did that have to do with anything? There's got to be more to that story. Did he just show up? Was he claiming it from Mars? Why Planet X? Why wasn't it Planet D? And so when I was thinking about this, I had done a couple of sketches, and I had a Steampunk Marvin piece, because I think his style kind of lends itself to certain things, and one of them being steampunk, another one being a Star Wars crossover with Boba Fett. And there was something in the steampunk thing which kind of took off. People really enjoyed it. And then I did a sketch 2 years ago, I think it was, for Marvin Madness that they pulled off, or maybe it was last year. And it was Marvin in his steampunk, and then K9 in his steampunk attire with this dirigible steampunk spaceship thing in the background. And as I did that piece, I was like, man, like, there's something more here. Like, the story just kind of kept chirping at me, like, what about Planet A? What about Planet M? Like, what is it in these things? Like, why would it, what the shaving cream atom? What happens with that? Does he need that? Does he need to shave? Does he get super hairy? I don't know. And then I did another sketch for the same Marvin Madness piece, or the event, and it was Marvin at the desk of his spaceship, and he's got scattered over there like planet N, planet whatever. There's a few, and you can see a bunch of cards. Like he's doing his research on these planets, and then on a screen is Duck Dodgers claiming Planet D, and the name of the piece was called Claiming Planet D, and he's just pissed. He's like, he's doing it again. He's doing it again. Like I'm out to do this. So because Dodgers comes from Earth, right? He's going to conquer Earth. He's just going to go to the source and he's going to take care of things because he needs to run the whole thing. There was a whole scheme and a plan, right? Shaving cream was going to be his empire, believe it or not. So the Martians get super hairy, super fast. And that black dot that he's got needs a Bic razor, constantly. Well, there's no more shaving cream. So Marvin's going to get a little hairy, and he's and of course so angry. And so his quest to conquer Earth is to kind of right the wrongs of what Dodgers did in thwarting him and to take over this thing. Because if he can't take it over using shaving cream in this empire, then you better darn well bet that he's going to take it over using all these other elements from planets A through Z, because they've all got something. And there will be a revisit to Planet X because there's one little bit left behind. And by the time he gets there, I don't even know if he's going to be able to see with the hair over his eyes. So as I went through with the series, I pitched it and I said, okay, it's kind of extensive. I want to do these planet covers, like a snapshot of like what is going on the planet, what they're trying to do, how they're being thwarted. And really it spans across 7 characters, because Marvin isn't just doing this on his own. He needs more firepower. And if he's going to combat this. So in the dream team of evil genius, you've got Marvin, you need a loyal sidekick. You need someone who's going to be there with you, getting whatever, the gopher, right? That's K9. You need someone who can ingeniously think up inventions, and in order to capture what they need to do to build these things, there's only one, that's Wiley. And then you need the muscle. Like sometimes you just need dudes who are big and strong to move stuff around. So you've got Gossamer. Those 4, right, make up the dream team of deviousness. And then I used characters, and they've all kind of interacted with each other. So at any point, all these 7 characters in different films have interacted. So on the dream team, on the other side, for the winning guys, is obviously Duck Dodgers. And then you've got Cadet, and then you've got Bugs. So these 3 are there to make sure, like, as they're finding things out, because as Cadet so obviously pointed out, why don't you just follow the letters instead of this giant map of things? They're like, we're going to go after, we've figured out what he's doing, we're going to thwart all this stuff. So it's everyone, they've got a mix of characters on every cover. There might be 3, there might be 4, there might be 5, it depends. We've got everything from a pop rocks element, right, to what am I working on now? I've got Jello. Because Jello, you can do anything with Jello. Good night. A liquid to a solid. What can you do with that when it cools off? Oh my. And then I'm not supposed to show this, and it's a blue line sketch anyway, so it's super, super light. But we've got, on this planet, we've got those bubbles that are thicker on the out, like, so there's something that you can trap in. And what I love about everything that I'm playing with, it's something that is applicable to my own life. So, all these things have little pieces of whatever it is from my own life in these elements that move forward. And it's based on Chuck's inspiration of the Looney and Fosdex shaving cream atom. So by the time we get to the end, they built this machine. It's not everything that they wanted it to be, because they didn't get everything, because they were thwarted on some stuff. But they're going to go after and conquer Earth. And this last kind of setup on scene after Planet Z is, in Wiley's ingenious, he built this facial recognition software, right? So all Marvin has to do is hit the button, zzz, off it goes. Well, that was done when he was a clean-shaven Martian. He's not going to be clean-shaven at the end. And in true Acme fashion, what is it that undoes the guys that try to use the Acme products? It's not the Acme product, right? It's their use of the Acme product, or their inept use. So this finalizes the inept use of this Acme thing that they put together with all these elements and particles. And it concludes in 26 covers. There's going to be 7 skate decks, so 1 for each character. There's 1 painting at least that I'm going to do at the end. And then there's going to be this book. So it's kind of like an art, but it's a storybook. So there's a storyline to all this. It's going to contain all of the covers. It's It's going to contain concept sketches and little like layouts and thumbnails, along with what the planet is, what's going on, and why they need to pull it off. And essentially, you're kind of reading this story as it goes from beginning to end. It's an insane project. So we launched Conquer Earth last year in September, and then wrap it up. It'll all be wrapped up by the end of this year. So this will be kind of like a year-long thing to wrap up all 26 covers plus all the pieces and everything that goes with it. All of this is exclusively available with the Chuck Jones Gallery. So everything that's created for this, all of it, whether you have a consultant, if you're looking to reach out, chuckjonescatalog.com. It has the Conquer Earth series. That's its own little section on there. And that's where you can view and partake in anything. They've got 2 different sets. So all of them are in limiteds as well. And there's a paper version of one. So you can get a planet size in this, or right over there is the canvas size of the limiteds, which are full size on 12 by 18s. Whereas these guys right here, I believe, are 10 or 8 by 10, I think is what they are. So there's different ways to collect, whether it's an original or maybe you want your initials or something and you collect them in a limited after the fact. And by the way, there's one additional thing. So on the canvas, on the giclées of the covers, which the color jumps, I'm stoked about how these turned out. If you get one of the canvas size, which again is real size to the actual production, the originals that I did, on the back is a full-size character. So I sketch on the back of all of them a full-size character. Right now it's Marvin, as we do a Steampunk Marvin, but there's an original sketch on the back of every single giclée version of the planet covers. I'd say that it's probably, this project has pushed me to write more things, right? Everything's intentional. And when you're doing a piece and, say you're doing a painting of something, or maybe you have a series of a couple of, scenes or something that you're putting together and they have a meaning, to do 26 plus all the stuff that goes along with it has been an absolute blast and creatively pushed me into thinking bigger on something and how to wrap a storyline around. And which is why I'm stoked about this. For one, that the gallery's letting me do it. And when I pitched it, they weren't like, you're insane, and maybe we should wait till later, but just, yes, that sounds hilarious. We're not quite, how's that going to come out? And then when I show, like a little bit more of the progress, they're like, but they bought in from the beginning, which is why I got the chance to do it. So I'm stoked about this. As each cover comes out, there's influences from comics. So like different comic covers, different, layout styles. I've got a Hulk reference in the Planet Eye. There's a Thor reference coming up in a planet that might have one of my initials in it, stuff like that. So I'm stoked to be able to pour myself into this series and then watch how it comes out. And I've loved everybody's reaction to this. There's custom pins that go along. So in a part of not only collecting the pieces, depending on which you get, an original, a limited, whether it's the giclée or the limited edition print, I did pins of all the hats and helmets. So there's one, I've got canines over here too, all 7. So all 7 come in a pin, right? And the collector pins are available with the Conquer Earth series. So anybody that picks up, depending on which kind they pick up, there's how many pins do you get with one, choose your own pins kind of stuff. And I love pins. I love collector pins. I'll put them everywhere, right? So I wanted to do something as a fan myself of doing these things. They're like, what would I want if I got something like this? If there was a series like, what would I want? I'm like, I want a pin. That's cool to me. And the reaction I've gotten from people is phenomenal. So collector pins, collector things, this whole idea of this art of book afterwards. And then I do believe that the paper versions of these, when you get these there's a collector box we're working on and how that comes together in a portfolio. So that's exciting as well. If you're geeking out on any of this stuff, which I geek out on, and it's something that you want to pick up, I will tell you that originals go like that. So the originals are, you're fast on the hit. Usually people are wanting their initials or, something like that, a letter that's dear to them, or maybe it's a subject matter. So if you're looking for that, get a hold of your consultant before, as things start to launch. And then the limiteds for both go fast as well. So it's kind of one of those things. If you find the letter combinations that you like, or, you know, something that appeals to you, hop on it with the gallery. And that's all at chuckjonescatalog.com, that you can see all of the current releases, and then get a hold of your consultants, as they will be able to help fulfill that for you. And then all the little perks and stuff that come with it. And again, my name is Ben Olson. I am an artist with the Chuck Jones Gallery. I am a fellow nerd and purveyor of all these wonderful things, Chuck Jones, and just so grateful to be a part of this whole show.